Okay, first off, I want to say thank you for doing this. Second year in a row. I feel like I got a seat with the OG here. This is really exciting. We're going to get into all things professional, thought leadership, all the things that you are known for and really highly regarded for as a woman in tech, and everything that you know around AI. Sorry, guys, we are going to talk about AI, whoever was not into that earlier. But what I think is so terrific on the heels of celebrating women and all those accomplishments is kind of what's behind the professional. You're a very successful female in tech. I'd love to hear a little bit, in kind of the vein of the actor studio, what's driving that behind you? I want to understand what a bit of your origin story is, because the little that I was able to learn, that's equally, if not sometimes more impressive. You guys are going to fall over when you hear this. It's so impressive. And I believe that that's also what drives the passion and purpose that's making you so impactful in what you do from your day-to-day job. So I'm going to be quiet because I'm fangirling, but please tell us all about it.
That's so sweet. I've always been kind of a tech nerd. I was that kid who took the remote control apart because I wanted to see how it worked, and started out in engineering and then became a tech consultant in the early 90s when it was mainframe systems. And I've been so privileged to watch as a career woman all of these evolutions of technology that we've seen. And one of the things that I had the opportunity to do about 15 years ago is set up our global delivery capability for PricewaterhouseCoopers and then IBM when they purchased us. And I saw the plight of people who live in conditions that you hear about hundreds of years ago, that are happening today. And it really grieved my heart living in this world of high tech and privilege, and then seeing how people were struggling, especially girls, especially women, orphans. And so one of the things I started to do is participate with a ministry called the Hand of Hope. And so I think I've funded 35 water wells around the world in the last 20 years.
Absolutely.
It's amazing because girls are the ones who go get water that gets them, they're open to predators when that happens. These are girls who are 7, 8 years old to teen years. They don't get to get education as a result. And then waterborne illnesses are the biggest killer around the world of people, if you aren't familiar with that. And so it just changes the lives of all of these girls and women. I just was actually at a conference where we were seeing a child who I met at an orphanage about 15 years ago, a little girl whose parents had died of AIDS, and she was ostracized from the community. And I helped fund an orphanage that took her in, and she went to college. She is now married. She is having her first child soon. And so to see the impact of, so often we think we can't do much. And I often have thought, what am I doing? I'm a marketing person. Like, I'm making money for a company. I'm making money for myself, And so that really gave me an opportunity to make a difference. And I've sponsored children over the last 20 years, and one has really become like a surrogate daughter to me. So I put her through school. She lives in Uganda. She's in her 20s now. She's a professional. And so just those causes are really on my heart. And I continue to really invest in the Hand of Hope and Project Girl to help women come out of trafficking and basically have a better life. And you may feel like your contribution is a drop in the bucket, but it changes lives, even if it's one individual. So I've been really privileged to be able to do that.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I was worried I was going to embarrass her, because I think that the passion that we bring to our personal commitments is something that, is the passion that we bring to our personal commitments really does drive a lot of what we do professionally, because especially today, I think there's so much behind that. So talk to me a little bit about sort of your drive as a woman in tech, and sort of how you're seeing tech be, contributing to innovation, particularly in the AI space, and any kind of misconceptions or benefits that maybe aren't being talked about.
Yeah. Well, I just love the session beforehand because they were talking.
That's great.
AI, everybody's talking about it because it is the sexy sizzle thing that we can't get away from, because everyone has those tools out there. Everyone has accessibility to software that has AI, to tools that have AI, to data models. We can't get away. I always say this, no matter what the technology is, you cannot get away from the fundamentals of what we're trying to do. And in light of what you were just asking me about in terms of that part of my life, I think one of the things that I learned from that is really seeing people and understanding where they're coming from, understanding what their challenges are. That's a more extreme, life situation. However, I think it goes to what we do in marketing. I mean, you can always tell when, even as a consumer, right, when you're watching a marketing campaign that's really just trying to sell you. And you can tell when you really feel something and when you're really moved. And so I think the key in AI today, there's a lot of fear around it. There are the sexy sizzle things like the J-Lo activation, which actually could have been really smart and performed well for them, right? But when it comes down to it, to truly get the value out of AI, we need to continue, like we have with other technologies, to be creators. We say at IBM, we don't want to be consumers, we want to be creators of AI. And we actually give people the tools to do that, to own their own. We democratize the AI so that you can use a platform, you can use the open source models out there and collectively pull from all the creativity that's out there, but also put your stamp on it and tune what you need and want to do. But the core of that is, what am I trying to accomplish? What's the business goal? And I think we become more effective marketers, more effective business people when we step back and look at what truly is going to bring value, not just sell or promote or perform. I think the things that perform the best are the things that have heart and have that authenticity built into it. It's kind of like your favorite band. You know, in the first couple of years, they're writing their songs out of their own passions, and then they start to try to repeat that and try to do what they think is going to sell, and you're like, those songs are terrible. What are you doing?
I know. I instantly thought of Nickelback when you said that for some reason. I don't know why.
So it's really the fundamentals. Understanding your audience. What is the why behind what you're doing? And I think when you inform your strategy that way, then the tools start to work for you.
Well, and is there a particular activation or a particular experience that you've been a part of that kind of exemplifies that you want to share?
Yeah, I think so. This is a really fun activation. During COVID, we did all digital activations, and we were trying to explain the difference between dissonance and harmony, and looking at how AI can identify those things. And we had this little game that you could do with dials and grabbing different insights. And our Watson X Assistant team that deals with contact centers saw this and said, what if we simulated what it would be like to be a contact center agent? I mean, how many of us? I'm like, agent, stop asking me questions. Just let me talk to somebody, right? Well, with our Watson X Assistant product, we really have a very leading conversation agent there, and they really want to show how this isn't replacing people, but it's taking care of automated tasks that delight the customer, and really making the contact center agent's job more about focusing on the person who's going, agent, let me talk to somebody, so they can really spend the time there. I mean, I won't mention the airline, American Airlines. I was on, 2 hours, and they'll call you back, and my flight's in an hour, So anyway, long story longer, basically, they came up with this idea. What if you have all of these requests flying at you like in a game, and you put the person in the seat of the contact center agent to handle all this? So we created what was called the Contact Center Challenge. And we rigged the game. It's like a 2-minute experience, but it was really visually beautiful. And we had these balls that were coming down, and you have to basically capture them. But there's no way an individual can answer all of these things. And you do a keypad kind of like on a Samsung phone. And so within about 45 seconds, you see all these little angry emojis. People are, and you watch the person doing this game, and they're frustrated because they're trying to And then we say, you know what? Let's give you a little help. Let's let Watson X Assistant automate some of this for you. And so then we put in natural language and it automates that. And then we put in self-serve answers. And then we put complex lookups and tasks. And then at the end of it, we show them, okay, here's how you did with and without Watson X. And here's what would have happened if you had it before. And then we emphasize that the contact center agent with automation, with AI automation, can actually spend time on the things that keeping someone from being on hold for an hour and a half, right? And so often I've watched, I saw from a big retailer, you'd know the name of it, the COO from there sat down and did this and was like, I get it. In fact, he even said to me, he's like, honestly, I have a seller who's been trying to sell me this and I didn't get it. Now I get it. And so that just meant a lot to me in terms of the power of our experiences. So if we can really get them in that moment of understanding what's really going on and how it's going to help, then that took him over and I've had many, many, many clients. I've had clients say, we got an open source chatbot system and we didn't want to spend the money, but this, I get it. So we really have an opportunity as experiential marketers to help people understand what's going on. And I've had so many people say, I never realized it's a lot of work to be a contact center agent. I'm going to be nicer to my people, So that was very gratifying for me. And we even had a lot of people internally too who were like, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. The first 45 minutes is frustrating of this experience. We want it to be good. No, we want them to have that dopamine hit, whether, for the frustration for that case or delight later on, so that people can really truly feel what's happening. And people remember that more than they do a great pitch.
I think that's pretty remarkable in the fact of all of us on the agency side for experiential, whenever we get a brief around, a particular novel technology, the challenge for us on that side is really experientializing that technology to a way that will break through. That's not just a demo, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that you elicited empathy is, as I think arguably as human beings, is one of the most difficult emotion to even tap into on a non-professional basis is quite remarkable. And how do you pull that through? Where do you see going forward with that now? Because obviously it was so successful. What is the...
Well, what's interesting, and one other thing that we added into this is we made it a team sport too. So we made it competitive. They were working together and we put leaderboards in. So we kind of tapped into the human emotion of that a little bit. But it's interesting because that's been in market for a year and a half. And usually we use things for a while and then we're on to something else. And we keep getting requests for this because it's been so successful. I think the maybe the next step of that is to perhaps embed more some results from the customer cases that we have because it's become even more penetrated in market and with our clients. But I don't know, for me, I just start thinking about what's the next exciting new thing that I can do.
I love that. Well, it seems like there's so much in front of that for sure. So from a basic user perspective, and I'll just look at myself in terms of how, I'm initially thinking around AI. We talk a lot about benefits. There's a lot of talk around risk. There's a lot of talk about data. There's a lot of talk about garbage in, garbage out. There's some consistent trends around that. What we don't hear a lot about is sort of organizational preparedness. I don't know if you have a philosophy on that in terms of experimental to competent to adoptive to integration, in terms of making AI, because it's here to stay, how do we really truly embrace that, regardless of what industry we're in at an organizational level? If you have any thoughts on that.
We have a great resource for you all if you're really trying to get, because IBM, I'm not just saying this because I'm an IBMer, but we have been doing AI for a very long time. You may remember Jeopardy. 10 years ago, I was involved in the first concierge, 10 robot concierge conversation that we had at World of Watson. So we've been doing this a very long time, and there's a resource that I would recommend to you all, our IBM Institute of Business Value. We came out at the beginning of the year with 5 trends around AI, and I really love this one of the 5, that instead of being plus AI in the world today, we're AI plus. So it really goes to the strategy, really looking at, and everyone's talked about it today, you be intentional about what you're trying to do, but I can't stress that enough, because if you don't understand what kind of data that you want to capture, that you want to use, and evaluate that data and make sure that it's right for the business challenge, you're going to get into the middle of an initiative and then think about it after the fact and go, oh, I didn't ask for that, or I didn't factor that in. So you really understanding the capabilities of AI that are available to you. And if you really look, we have software that's embedded with some AI already. Everyone has access to that. We all are trying to use it in an effective way. We have APIs that we can build into applications. Again, those are services, and those entities that you're using their APIs and their services are also taking your usage and learning from you. And then you have platform. And, at IBM, we have a platform that we recommend, and that's our Watson X platform, where we allow you to use our large language models, our foundation models, which many, many companies have them, right? And maybe, we have them across all the disciplines of procurement, finance, talent, customer service. And then you can take your own enterprise data and tune those models and create your own models. So I think a best practice, no matter what platform you use, whether it's the IBM platform or another platform, a platform that will let you own your data, because it becomes intellectual property. When you start using these foundation models and you put it together with your data, you then have something no one else has. And so if you're a highly regulated industry, like the gentleman before was talking about, or you're in the customer service space, or you're in a niche product space, you have insights and gold in your enterprise that no one else has. And so you can use the industry stuff that everybody else has access to, but if you just limit it to that, you're leaving value behind. That's why we say be a value creator with AI, because you can take your own enterprise data, put that together, and create something new. And so it's really important to have a platform. The other thing about the platform that you use, or the tool that you use to tune models and become smart and hire people who understand this and know how to do this, is the security and the way to govern and understand where did your data come from, and retain that throughout the models. So as you're pulling in a public model or a private data set that you've purchased, or your own enterprise data, being able to understand where everything came from, so that you can see when it starts to hallucinate, what we call hallucinate, and go off the reins. So we've seen some very public situations where AI has caused major exposure and unintended consequences, and so that's how you prevent it from happening. Strategically up front, really leading with how the AI is going to drive the answer to your business challenge, and then making sure that you're using the right type of platform that gives you the ability to own your intellectual property and tune and create what you want to create.
I love that. I feel like I just got a lot smarter. Not that I'll be able to implement it at that level, but I do appreciate that.
We'll help you if anybody needs help.
Switching gears just slightly, and kind of revolving back to the Watson X activation. The real hint around that is transparency with your intention, as well as the authenticity around the approach to that. And it really is obviously about knowing the audience, right? And something we all strive for. We all talk about it. We do a lot of work understanding the psychographics, the demographics, all the things that play into that. talk a little bit more about, and we share this philosophy, our organizations, and I think personally, around everyone has the mind of a consumer, whether it's B2B, B2E that we're all talking about. We kind of shepherd B2BC, so business to business consumer. We all buy with a consumer frame, regardless of our day job. I'd love your philosophy and perspective, because I feel like that's something that you really are robustly passionate about in everything that you're moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying for a really long time, especially within our organization, people, we're B2B, consumer isn't our. Well, now that AI is just permeating everything, it's even more obvious that our business to business customers are serving consumers. So especially in the retail, the customer service space, and in finance, we really need to understand what consumers need and what's happening with the consumer solutions to emulate that. I think that when it comes to understanding that, someone said earlier today, I always say I'm a lifelong learner. And I think it was the gals from Expedia and Pinterest, and Pinterest is such a consumer, but look at what a business that is. The lines are being blurred, right? So I think that being a learner and being curious, and AI allows us to do this because it gives us access to so much data that we're taking in, but also having those connections. So, we often in executive experiences, for example, bring together CMOs and CIOs. You might think that, they don't talk sometimes they don't talk very much, honestly. But when we bring them together, especially because of the business challenges and the convergence of AI across, we're seeing more and more that leaders are making decisions as teams. And I see this as the underlying reason for that is because the idea of a consumer is just being blurred, because a business there's so much direct to consumer, and so the businesses that are enabling a business to serve that consumer, you are now in the business of consumer. So could you say consumer and business more in one sentence? But I think that really, I think the first step to that is opening your mindset to, even though I'm a B2B marketer, what consumer base am I enabling this business to? And so it's first and foremost opening your mind to it, and secondly, seeking out the information. And so we have great information sources, but really it's talking to the people. Like that customer service contact center challenge that we had, we talked to the product marketers, who developed the product. They're selling it because that product actually isn't off the shelf. It's a chatbot. It is the building block for big banks or big airlines or whatever the customers are to use. So, but we went and we talked to consumers. We talked to their customers and we said, what is the biggest thing? What's the biggest pain point? We had them visit certain contact centers. We have a product that's coming out later this year that's around quick service restaurants, for example. We have teams that go out and they just observe quick service restaurants. What are the challenges they're dealing with? Not even applying technology, but just watching and understanding. So it kind of goes back, it may seem obvious or a little boring, but it just goes back to the original statement I made. We can't get away from the fundamentals of being good marketers. Understanding our audience, what do they need, how can we authentically address that, and then using the tools and strategies to align to that to me is the winning proposition. And sometimes things you experiment with work, and sometimes you have to tweak it, but hopefully when you do that, you're going to end up with a good result because you're listening and you're responding and being personalized and responsive.
I love that. Okay, back to a little bit more of the actor studio approach. What about AI are you just tired of talking about or want to move past? Or is there nothing? I'm
just fascinated with it.
Right.
Yeah. I think I'm a little tired of. I have something. I'm excited. I'm tired of seeing things that people are really impressed with that are just a flash in the pan and not really transformative. I think that because there's so much knowledge out there, people can see it, right? So don't do that. Don't put a facade up and do something you think that's kind of cute. Like make sure there's substance to it, because people see right through it, and it's on the front page one day. Oh my gosh, I'm dating myself. It's on TikTok one day, and then the next day, a
Nickelback
it disappears, which is how TikTok is set up. So whatever, but you know what I'm saying.
Okay, I think I have one more question. Outside of the current career that you're in, if you could do anything else, what would that be?
Oh, I know the answer to this. I would design homes. I love to do interior design. I really, really enjoy. And I do it for all of my friends, and I do it for all of my family. And it really is customizing and understanding their style. Like, it could be anything from like Victorian to very minimalist. But I really love creating a space that reflects the personality of a person in their home, because it's so impactful that they spend so much time there. But I love to do that. Yeah.
I'm sure you're good at it. Next career, the next one.
Maybe.
Thank you. Any questions anywhere? We're good? Oh, sorry. Everyone, cocktail time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Erin.